up? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Welcome back to On Texas Football, and welcome back to our Wednesday night live stream. We like to call it the Hump Day edition of the live streams here on Texas Football. I'm not alone, and thank God. I'm joined by fellow Lifetime Longhorn, the young prodigy, C.J. Vogel, joining me as well. And, of course, I'm going to stop saying the newest member of On Texas Football because he's been here way too damn long now. But he is my good friend and esteemed colleague, the one and only Jeff Howe, joining us as well. What's going on, Jeff? We appreciate you taking the time on a Wednesday night live stream. We got a lot to get into. They're apparently one of the best players for the Longhorns has decided to change their number. We'll get into that coming up a little bit later on. We do know who will represent the Longhorns at SEC Media Days, which also on Texas Football will be well represented at SEC Media Days, by the way. So we'll get into that coming up a little bit later on in the show. A lot of talk about the new landscape of college football. There's an article out there by Ross Dellinger, very interesting article about the house settlement and how teams are adapting to it. I've talked about it here on this platform. I actually am very intrigued by everybody, the different formulas and methodologies that are starting to develop with this house settlement. And we've seen it. Texas Tech seems to have a certain interpretation of it, and so does USC, and Oklahoma's got their own plan they're coming up with, and people are trying to figure out what's Texas' plan in this new house settlement, the changing landscape of college football. So we'll talk about that a little bit and talk about Ross Dellinger's article a little bit later on in the show. We'll also dive into, I'm trying to keep up with some of the sports books, and we talked about, because Jeff went to Vegas, so not too long ago, and placed a wager on Arch Manning to win the Heisman. And apparently there are some other metrics that have been revealed and released about the most wagered on and most bet on athletes to win the Heisman. So not only is Arch top of the list, but I want to get into some of the other guys on that list. So we'll do that too coming up a little bit later on the show. But of course, your questions, your comments, whatever you want to talk about, throw it out there. Super chats jump to the front of the line, and you can interrupt the show at any time. Just throw out a super chat. All right, guys, let's dive right into it. A lot of different things to discuss on the show. I want to start with Colin Simmons changing his number to number 1. It's official now. Colin Simmons announced via Instagram that he will be switching to number 1. So didn't Ryan Wingo switch to 1 too? Just the second one switch that we got this offseason? What's the most coveted number among college athletes? Is it number 1?
Oh,
because I'm just asking, because back in my day, everybody didn't want single digits in my day. Like that wasn't like 21 was kind of cool, but just starting to become like a cool thing to get the single digits. Now everybody wants the single digits. Hell, and it ain't that many of them, as we know. Is 1 the most coveted? Now, is that the coolest number now in college football to have the just numero uno?
It's a single digit, right? I see a lot of zeros in there. Anthony Hill, DeAndre Moore. For a while, Reggie Bush made 5 the number to wear.
5 was sexy. 2 is cool. 2 is my favorite single digit. The
two on a quarterback. I don't know if it's the Manziel thing, but you better be an elusive little, jitterbug in the back in the backfield. Essentially, Berkovici. If anybody remembers him over at Arizona State, my God, was he fun? He was just a clone. Maybe like a Walmart version of Manziel. But
didn't think we'd have a Mike Berkovici reference on the show tonight. So
for like 8 games, I was like, this guy's unbelievable. And I never heard of him again. It was crazy.
No, that's cool. Like I said, yes, I do like number 2 for Deion. I was a big Deion fan. But 2 was cool back in my day. Like, I remember Deion Figures had number 2. Like, 2 was one of those coveted, really cool numbers.
Charles Woodson.
Exactly. Boom. Exactly. It wasn't no need to make number 2 cool, but there you go. Colin Simmons switching to number 1, maybe because he wants to be considered the best player in the country, the best defensive player in the country. He does have a chance, guys. Like, what was the last time Texas had a player that could be bona fide, could be considered the best defensive player in college football? In that conversation. Texas has some damn good. Hell, Joseph Osao's a damn good defensive player. I remember him, really good defensive player.
Yeah.
when was the last time that was? I can't remember like who at that time when Joseph Ossai was balling out. I do remember that. But who else was really good in that time? Like, J.D. Aaron, of course, like dominant player. It's different in the secondary because you can be ignored in the secondary a little bit. Like you can be great, but you can be ignored.
Like Derek Johnson in 04 was, I mean, very much in the conversation as the best defensive player in the country.
Yeah. Jade was, I could say, the best DB in the country. Was he the best defensive player in the country?
I mean,
I don't want to disrespect. As I'm saying, we never had that conversation about Jade.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a disrespect to Jade. Like, we never had the conversation. Is he the best defensive player in the country? Like, we never had that conversation. He won a Thorpe as the best DB. So he's definitely in the top 3, 4. And we never had the conversation about, is he the best defensive player in the country? I feel like we did him a disservice.
I think the Jade thing, though, right? I think it all depends on who was answering the question and how they viewed Travis Hunter. Like, did you view Travis Hunter as a corner, or did you view him just as an athlete? Like, I just viewed him strictly as a two-way player. Like, he's because if you're taking that many snaps on both sides of the ball, like, I don't think you're primarily one or the other. I just think you're an athlete.
Yeah, Abdul Carter, somebody says he was the best. Yeah, it was just weird because I don't think we ever on this channel talked about Jade being the best defensive player in the country. I think we definitely talked about him being the best DB.
Yeah.
But I don't think we ever talked about him being the best defensive player in the country. But that's the conversation we're having now about Colin Simmons. As the top, I think it was the top 50 list from Pro Football Focus. They had Caleb Downs, I believe, the top defensive player. If I'm not mistaken, Colin Simmons was number 8 on that list. I'm not sure how many defensive players were ahead of him, but he's right there in that conversation. And it's been a while since we've talked about it. That's what I've been doing for 15, 20 years about Texas football. And I don't think I remember talking about a player recently of that ilk.
I think I think the different thing for me is it's hard to, because I think once you're in a season, like we go back to 2009, right? Like we didn't think Earl Thomas was going to have that kind of season, right? Exactly. But as great as Earl was, Ndamukong Suh should have won the Heisman that year. I still believe that. I'll go to my grave believing that Ndamukong Suh was the best player in the country.
Yeah.
With Jade, I think you say the same thing about Travis Hunter, whether you viewed him as primarily a defensive player or an offensive player. Travis Hunter was the best player in the country last year. Brian Orakpo's 08 season kind of came out of nowhere. Like we knew he was good, but I don't think I didn't expect him to be National Defensive Player of the Year and you can make a case that year Brian Orakpo was the best defensive player in the country. But I think in terms of hype coming into a season, from where Colin Simmons and Anthony Hill are right now, like Derek Johnson was probably the last Longhorn that you could go into a season having a legitimate conversation of this guy's the best defensive player in America.
I think you're right. Because I don't even know if Huff Daddy, right? Did Huff Daddy get that? I don't know if Huff Daddy got that either going into 05. Right. Because you had a lot of great players on that defense, of course. But
yeah, I mean, and Huff was good. Don't get me wrong. Michael Huff was really good, but he wasn't as hyped as because if you go back and look at the Texas defense, it was less about what they returned and more of, okay, how are they going to compensate for the loss of Derek Johnson? Even though from 04 to 05, that defense returned. I mean, basically the 05 defense was the 04 defense minus Derek Johnson. It's basically what it was. Yeah, I mean, Sammy mentions Deshaun Elliott. He had a great 2017, but that came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right. Joseph Osai was weird because COVID
came out of nowhere too.
Everything. Osai had a great bowl game, but I mean, there was a time going into Joseph Osai's last year at Texas, we were wondering, is there going to be a football season? So we had bigger fish to fry than worrying about the best defensive player in the country. But I feel confident saying the last time Texas had a guy that was going into the season with this kind of hype, ballyhoo, whatever you have, it was Derek Johnson in 2004.
Damn, I think you're right.
All the more reason to get excited. You know, we talked about it a little bit on State of the Program. It's like, where are we at in the season? I was like, look, for me, SEC Media Days kind of starts the season because then you get all the narratives, you get all the talking points, and then it just flows right on into August. Fall camp gets going. We're nearing that, and that just gets me excited. So, you know, this talk of Colin Simmons being in that conversation, look, I want to see him on the field. I want to see that number one. He's going to look even faster than that number one coming off the edge.
That's true.
Rod, find me that list because I want to know. I want somebody put their name on a list where they feel like there were 7 defensive players in college football better than Colin Simmons. So I want to see that list. I want to know who the 7 are.
Okay, I'll tell you 2 who legitimately who can make the argument. And I love me some Colin Simmons. You know, I knew he won the Freshman of the Year, so you can make the case just right there and there. He's the best defensive player, like at least of his peers. But Leonard Moore, I'm a big Leonard Moore fan. Always have been.
Yeah.
Jeff, you're my witness. Jeff and I used to work at a radio station together, and they wanted to put together like basically an all Central Texas like team. Okay.
And giant pain in the South End to put together.
Oh yeah.
I digress.
And so they wanted my opinion on the DBs, right? So I gave my opinion on the DBs, and I told them, I say, man, Leonard Moore is the best DB I've seen on tape. I'm not gonna tell you what happened. I ain't gonna get into it. Okay, I'm not gonna get into it. I told him, I said he's the best. Whatever y'all want to do, I'm telling you, like that. He's the best DB that I've watched in Central Texas. Like I don't think I've watched one better. And I was at the time I was like, I don't know why the hell Texas ain't recruiting him. I found out later why. It's okay. But I was like, I was like, I don't know why. He's the best young DB. I don't think I've seen a better, more adept press coverage corner in Texas, like period, that I've watched film on. And I was like, there's no way there's a better one in Houston or Dallas. There's no way. No. If there was, he'd be the most talked about cornerback of his class if he was. That's how technically proficient he was as a player. And
coming out of Central Texas, Rod. I mean, you know where he's training. You know who he's working with.
Bam, baby.
Another Bam kid. Look, it's interesting. Andrew Makuba, 2nd-round pick. You look at Jade, obviously Thorpe. You look at Michael Taft, 2nd-team All-American. Now you start to wonder, all right, who else on this Texas roster could get into this conversation where they're nationally acclaimed, right? Kobe Black, Jelani McDonald. You know, there's some youngsters, JJR, maybe a Phil Sami that you're starting to look at working with Bam as well. Just getting their movement, right? The football instincts have to be there. But we've talked about it, the T drops or the T steps, not having false movement, that saves a batted ball to becoming an interception, right? And that's part of the game, especially for teams that love to play man coverage. You're seeing it right now with Leonard Moore.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's a good point, TJ. You're right. Good shout out to Bam, though. You're right. If Bam is doing the damn thing down there. And the other guy is a DB. It's Caleb Downs. Now, the conversation about Caleb Downs is interesting because Bobby brings up a great point. Bobby Burton said, and I've talked about this, does a DB impact the game? Just what we're talking about Jahdae Barron, as much as a front 7 player who can be a pass rusher and also stuff the run and be an impact player. I would agree with Bobby on that. I don't know if a DB can impact the game as much as a front 7 player overall, as a pass rusher and as a run stuffer. But Caleb Downs has one of the most versatile skill sets as a safety that I've seen. So you can put him, you can move him as a chess piece everywhere. So those are 2 players that I think you could put over Colin Simmons as better defensive players, are in the conversation to be just as good. But there ain't many yet. There ain't many.
Anthony Hill would be another one because I can say the same thing about Anthony Hill. To me, Anthony Hill and Caleb Downs are in the same group. They don't play premium positions as far as the NFL is concerned, but they are premium players.
I love that. Yeah. You know who said that? I want to say Matt Miller actually had a tweet literally just like.
Did he really?
Yeah, he was basically like, he said, essentially the draft next season, the 2 best defensive players may be those 2 guys, but the conundrum will be for NFL teams that they're not at premium positions.
Yeah.
But my Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but is Anthony Hill can rush the passer.
Yes.
So to me, I think that puts him now. Caleb Downs, that's why he may get pushed down. Like I don't know what else he can. I know he's versatile, but man, pass rusher, having an elite pass rushing ability is I can monetize that. That's quantifiable. With Caleb Downs, he does a lot of things that I don't know if you can really quantify. It makes him a great player, but I don't know if it's what Anthony Hill does really well. Literally, I can give you an analytical stat about it, and it will increase his draft stock. But no doubt, if he gets 10 sacks, boom, he's going to skyrocket up the draft. Caleb Downs has got to get like 7, 8 picks to prove that he's that kind of generational talent as a safety to the league that can impact the play. Like he's got to get like 4 sacks and 7, 8, 9 tackles for loss, and then get 6, 7 interceptions. I don't know if he's going to have a stat line like that. All Anthony Hill's got to do, no joke, is get double-digit sacks on top of whatever he's doing. And he's going to be a top, in my opinion, potentially a top 15, top 10 pick. Easy, guaranteed.
If you, it's going to take me a minute, but I think off the top of my head, Caleb Downs is probably going to be in that rarefied air of like a Sean Taylor in terms of the pre-draft conversations.
That's
where
good.
He is a safety, but is he a safety that can change your defense to the point where you think about taking him number 1 overall? I think the same conversation is going to happen with Anthony Hill. Like, man, you really want to take an off-ball linebacker in the top 3, top 5 of the draft? Maybe not. But you probably take this off-ball linebacker that high. It's no different, Rod, to me than the conversation with Bijan. It's like, oh, you take a running back that high. I don't know if you take a running back that high. I'm usually not in favor, but that running back, yeah, I'd spend an early first-round pick on him.
Yeah, there it is. He's the best 2 players in the class.
Wow.
I thought he was talking about defense, but he might be the best 2 damn players in the class. Like they're that good. So I agree. You're right. I always say to me, I called it back in the day, I called it the Randy Moss exception. I was like, yeah, he may have some off the field issues, but when they're that talented, you still got to take them.
It's Randy Moss.
And you deal with the consequence, like, yeah, sorry, it flamed out, but I had to take him. I mean, it was Randy Moss. And Bijan's the same way. Like, I wouldn't draft a running back high, but I would draft Bijan high. I told my wife the same thing. I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, but I'm gonna say it right now. And I'm gonna read a commercial. I'm gonna read a live commercial so I can get everything back on track. I told my wife the same thing. I got married at 40, guys. I did not plan to get married. All right, that was not in my life goals. I didn't want to get married. All right, but I found a good woman. It's all good. But I told my wife this. I told her this. All right, and I said it to her, and I mean it. I don't believe in marriage. Like, it's not something I necessarily believe in. I'm not saying I'm against it. It's all, it depends on your situation. All right, whatever. But I told my wife, I said, I believe in you. I am not necessarily committing to the institution. I'm committing to you. Same thing I would say to Bijan. I don't believe in drafting running backs high. I'll draft you high. You are special. You are different. So that I will break my rules for you. Yeah. And I do think there are certain players you need to break your rules for. There's certain women you can break your rules for.
I might be putting that line in my back pocket, Rod. I might use that a little bit more.
It's a good line. Yeah, it's a good line. But it was true for me.
For you,
it was true for you. For you, just for you. But it was real for me because come on, I got married at 40. Had my first kid at 42 years. I'm an old man now. All right, but it was true. So I think that is the case, though, when you're evaluating players. There are certain guys, you break the rules for them. Yeah, I want arm length. I want this. I want that. Hey, back in my day, man, don't get me started now. Don't get me started. All right, 60% of the time, it works every time. But certain guys, you break the rules for. And I do believe that's the case. I'm with you on that. Bijan, break the rules for that guy. Randy Moss, break the rules for him. That kind of stuff.
One other name I'll throw into that because Caleb, we're talking about non-premium positions going very early. Yeah, Jeremiah Love's probably going to be another.
That's good.
Conversation as the season continues. I was watching some draft talk. This is what the offseason does to you. I don't even like listening to the draft until the season's concluded. But I was looking ahead at some of the 26 draft talk, and they're talking about maybe Jeremiah Love being comparable or above that of a prospect of Ashton Jeanty this past year. And we saw Ashton Jeanty go number 6 to the Raiders. So if that's the case for Jeremiah Love this year, it's going to be really interesting to see where he also falls into a potential top 10 pick.
By the way, just so I looked it up. Last time a safety went in the top 10, Jamal Adams in 2017. There was Jeff Okudah in 2020, but the Lions were doing the position conversion thing. But like a legit safety was Jamal Adams, and I think Caleb Downs is a better prospect than Jamal Adams. Totally. Last time an off-ball linebacker went in the top 10, Isaiah Simmons in 2020, and I think Anthony Hill, as good as Isaiah Simmons was, Anthony Hill brings more to the table as an off-ball linebacker than Isaiah Simmons did.
Yeah, but his attraction was to rush the passer at about 6'4", 6'5". He was a big off-ball linebacker, and I believe he ended up at Arizona, and they were just like, I don't know what to do with you. He didn't even play much of his first his rookie year.
I know, and I was disappointed in that too. And that's great. So both of these guys ended up being their own version of a hybrid because Jamal Adams essentially ended up also converting into a linebacker position as a flex linebacker, and then Isaiah Simmons was a position flex player because of his size and skill set. That's interesting, Jeff. Good stuff there. And that's, to me, to be drafted that high, you got to have added value. The NFL is all about value. They're trying to find value. The reason they don't draft running backs that high is they don't believe they have a sufficient enough value in terms of their impact on the game and return on your investment in terms of the contract they're going to pay you, the money I'm going to pay you, the guaranteed money in your rookie deal. Should I draft you in the first round? Because that's where the most guaranteed money is. How do I get the return on that investment? And other positions, especially quarterback, has been proven to give you more return on that investment if you hit, because you're going to have that quarterback for the next 8-10 years in your franchise, pass rushers. So think about running back is because of the depreciation of the position. Essentially, you peak at age 27. You peak, you're like a stripper. All right. That's basically, you're running back, you're a stripper. Strippers peak. You don't want to see a 40-year-old stripper. Nobody wants to see an old stripper when they go to the strip club. I don't go anymore. I haven't been in a long time. CJ can tell you. Still, I'm sure that rules the same thing. You don't want to see the old stripper. Nobody wants an old running back either. And you're old at running back at 29 years old. You're considered old.
Oh,
that's it. No, I'm not joking. You start to depreciate. All the stats and analytics say that your production drops by 30 to 40% by the time you get 28 years old. Period. That's just the analytics.
And man, when it for that position, man, when it goes fast.
It's like a stripper. When you see a stripper, when it goes down, it goes bad. She was fine 5 years ago. Like, she ain't. Nope, exactly. Like, she got boy glitter. She adding glitter. She needs something else to distract you. No. It's all good. You ain't supposed to be stripping at 35, 40. You're supposed to have transition to nursing or whatever you're gonna do.
I think in my, I just, yeah, perhaps. I learned that about running backs though, as a Cowboys fan. I remember when the Cowboys signed Eddie George, and I was like, oh man, maybe Eddie George has something left in the tank. And then Eddie George got to Dallas, and I realized, man, not only has he lost a step, it's done. Like,
he's over.
Eddie George is out of the league. Like he's a bottom tier starting running back in the league, and it was gone fast. Same thing with Zeke, man. Once the tread was off the tires, he was done.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But I'll say this too. I know we got to get a sponsor read and we got to move on, but somebody mentioned it in the chat. I apologize. I couldn't hear, but this is the hot take Anthony Hill's an edge in the NFL. That's the beauty of Anthony Hill. He can be whatever you need him to be, whatever you want him to be, because he does have the natural pass rush ability. I'll put it like this. You look at the impact Micah Parsons has had. Thank you, Steven. You look at the impact Micah Parsons has had with the Cowboys. And, NFL defensive player of the year type stuff. If there's an organization drafting in the top 10 that feels Anthony Hill can have the same kind of impact as Michael Parsons, you run his name to the podium and you don't think twice about it. That guy is the focal point of your defense for the next decade.
Mm-hmm. I agree on that. Yeah. No, like I said, that's the beauty of Anthony. It's like, no, he actually can fill many holes that we have on the roster. Doesn't matter what he off-ball linebacker, middle linebacker. He can go on the edge if he needs to. That's the beauty of a guy. And he's underrated in coverage. In coverage. Very underrated in coverage, man. It's not. He actually takes the proper depth in coverage a lot of the times too. All right. Sorry, I apologize about the stripper reference. Got you guys in the chat. Way amped up. talk about strippers and other stuff now. That's my fault. And I hate to do this. I'll take an old stripper. Hey, listen, ain't nothing wrong with an old stripper, by the way. I'm just saying, just like running backs, like they peak really early. Yeah. That's all it is. All right.
Yeah, the Cowboys brought Zeke back for a year. It didn't work out.
4 years. Oh my goodness.
Don't get the Cowboys fan started about the Zeke thing.
Trixie turns 50. She's done dancing, except Zeke's still running. It's crazy. It's unbelievable.
We gotta transition her to the waitress. You gotta be a waitress at that point.
Hostess something.
Zeke couldn't get on stage anymore after that. No, not the main stage. Nope, not at all. All right, let's see. I apologize to Flat Creek for having this type of segue, but let's hit the read of our friends over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. We appreciate them and all their ongoing support, and I apologize for this awkward segue. But check out Flat Creek Estate Winery, just minutes from downtown Austin, and they've won award after award this year for their vintage wine, Super Texan. I've told you guys about Super Texan, been bragging about it. Well, recently it was entered into the San Francisco Wine Festival, and it actually won with a score of 98 out of 100. It was named the top red blend in the country, folks. So not only are you talking about the best red blend in the great state of Texas, but the best red blend in Texas. So the Super Texan is available at your local Specs. They have it at your local HEB. I saw a display of Flat Creek Estate wine at our local Central Market here in Austin. So the good word is getting out about the great wines over at Flat Creek Estate Winery. But not only do they produce some of the best premium wines in the market, but they also have a gorgeous venue with barbecues and wine tastings every single weekend. It's perfect for a day date with your significant other or a weekend getaway with your significant other. That's Flat Creek Estate Winery, flatcreekestate.com. I really appreciate them and their ongoing support of On Texas football. Thank you very much to our friends over there. And if you have a special person in your life, take them to Flat Creek. Cisco, is it a good thing Coach isn't on? I can imagine where we be. Exactly. Coach got some gentleman's club stories that he could tell. That's how I do. I started working. CJ and I started working with Coach Shipley. CJ and I both said it. Like, Coach is not going back to coaching because he's telling too many stories on the winning drive to go back to coaching. Like, dude, he's just letting it all fly. And Coach is awesome. We love Coach. Coach Shipley is amazing. All right. Let's get some of the questions here. Super chat. So let's jump right to it. Super chats jump to the front of the line. So let's hit them. How about this one from RW? He says, whoops, Matthew, my question is for Rod. Were you able to ask Huff about the criteria for a DB to wear number 7 now? I was not. I've not actually done it yet. You know what? I'll send him a message and do it. I was hoping I just run into him, but that has not happened. I'll send him a message and do it. I will. Because I was going to ask Taft. I was going to ask basically Taft. Because I saw Taft Daddy like 2 weeks ago, and I didn't ask him. This was before we started having the conversation when I was going up there to interview Sark for Third and Longhorn. And he was coming out of the building randomly. We did the interview like randomly, just some random part of the day, and Taft's walking out there. Ain't no practice, nothing like that. We did it purposefully when they had time, when the schedule was wide open. And Taft's just up there hanging out. I'm like, what you doing up here? But that's Taft. I mean, that's why he's the greatest. Honestly, it's the greatest walk-on story in Texas football history. I don't know all the walk-on stories, but I'm going to say it's the greatest walk-on story in Texas football history because I'm a member of DBU. So, no, I have not, RW, but I will. I promise you. I'll get that done. I'm going to ask Taft or I'm going to ask Huff. Those are the two guys, kind of the seniority right now at DBU. I should get Malik Muhammad's probably in that conversation too. I mean, Gilbo. I could ask those guys if I ever saw them, but I've seen Taft more than that, and I at least have open lines of communication with Huff Daddy. All right, getting back to it. Splendid Daddy here says, does anyone know? Thank you for the super chat today. Does anyone know what happens if the clearinghouse doesn't approve a recruit's deal? Okay, now this kind of gets to the right. Thank you, Splendid Daddy, for the super chat. I don't know if you guys read the entire Ross Dellinger article, and it was a really good article at Yahoo Sports about the new clearinghouse and the house settlement, how teams are adapting to it. There's a lot of information in it, so I won't share a ton. I'll just share a couple of details from it. In the report, they did say there were of more than 1,200 NIL deals submitted to the clearinghouse for approval. About 1/3 were approved. All right, and several remain under review. So it said 80 or so were denied, and once you're denied, you can resubmit it. I believe when they deny you, they tell you the reason for it was being denied, and then you can resubmit it based on making your adjustments, whatever it may be. So 1,200 deals of more, and this is kind of, to me, which is kind of strange too. They said no deals have advanced past the second denial and into the arbitration appeals process. So when they're denied, then whatever reason they're denied by, they must be denied by something serious. And they don't even try to, resubmit it. Another little nugget out of this article, just to throw out there. And I said it's Ross Dellinger. You can check it out for yourself. And I saw this actually is one of the quotes from it. This is from Arizona State head coach Kenny Dillingham. He says, "We don't know the rules. The settlement this is from the article. He said, we don't know the rules. The settlement passed, but who knows what Deloitte, and that's the head of the clearinghouse and the head of the basically what is going to be the regulating arm of the NCAA for the NIL deals. He said, we don't know what Deloitte is going to clear. Until there is clarity, you're living in limbo. So apparently they have not gotten, I'm surprised they have not gotten a clear-cut criteria from this clearinghouse saying, hey, guys, like a memo, like, hey, boom, 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 boom. Like, this is what we're operating by. This is it. It seems like they're just letting the market determine whatever essentially their criteria is going to be, and they're not revealing it. I thought there would be a clear, very concise, bullet point, like this is what we're allowing, these are the do's, these are the don'ts. And apparently that's not the case. There's a lot of gray area, a lot of purgatory here, interpretation. And maybe that's where some teams are gaining an advantage and some teams are at a disadvantage.
You know what the gray area is good for, though, Rod? Help you avoid litigation, which is what this is all about. Like, they don't want a lawsuit on their hands. That's what, the minute they come out with the criteria and somebody looks at their deal that the clearinghouse rejected, boom, you've got lawsuit number one, and everybody else follows. So they're going to have it be gray for as long as possible. This really reminds me of when NIL started. Go back to that summer of 2021 when NIL first started. And I remember Sark and every coach saying, like, we don't know what we can tell people. Like, we don't know what if a recruit asks me about NIL, he said, I literally can't tell them because I don't know what I'm allowed to say and not. So we're just doing this. Hey, we'll kind of, meander around aimlessly. And if we bump into walls, we'll figure it out at that point. But there are no guard. It's funny that people talk about the clearinghouse. Oh, you got some guardrails. You don't have guardrails. You don't have parameters. You just have an entity now that if somebody is going to be sued, it's not the NCAA and it's not the schools, it's not the collectives. Like, if somebody's NIL deal doesn't get approved, now they know who to attack, who to go to, who to put in litigation for that deal falling through.
That's weird. By the way, 1,200 deals in the time span that since the house settlement was approved and they constructed the clearinghouse. Talking about a little under 9 per FBS program. 12, like that's what. And I'm not saying that's the average per FBS program. Talking about 9, a little 8.8 per FBS program, which doesn't seem like a lot.
No,
like. You know what I mean? That seems relatively low. And maybe I'm way off about that. Maybe that's just very lopsided towards some of the much more recognizable brands, some of the bluer bloods, if you will, brands. I'm not sure. We don't have that information, but I don't know. CJ, what are your thoughts about it overall? Does seem to be, like Jeff said, purposefully this room for interpretation. They're leaving it open, and they don't necessarily want a clear-cut criteria. I thought there would be to try to bring more clarity. Now we don't even have the clarity. You have coaches saying that we don't know what the hell the rules are. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've had a lot of thoughts on ways to scheme it. What could you possibly do to, kind of warrant or at least greenlight yourself into more money should it go to an arbitrator? What's to stop a kid from going out and buying, I don't know, 50,000 followers somewhere? You You sit there and say, my social platform is much larger than everybody else's. I deserve 10 times the amount. Who's to stop that, right? I also think that, hey, I think in favor, if there were guidelines, if there were restrictions, that would greatly favor Texas. Because, again, I've brought up the idea of a billboard. If you throw a billboard in downtown Austin versus that of Lubbock or College Station, you're telling me that price, that value is going to be the exact same? No shot, right? The amount of traffic, the amount of eyeballs, et cetera, that's going to go to here, to the one in Austin is going to be significantly greater, as well as just being in the city of Austin. I think significantly helps Texas in this regard, as well as the Longhorn brand. We've talked about it, the USA Today articles from a few years back. The most recognizable brands and just logos in all of sports, Yankees, Cowboys, Texas Longhorns, right? Those were the big three. So having that association is going to raise your value no matter what. Now, I do think there are going to be loopholes, as we've talked about. And this is where you really need to have some good lawyers to find those loopholes and figure out ways to protect your backside while still gaming the system. Because I do think that there are some teams, as we talked about, there are some schools that are promising things that just simply could not be achievable. And we've heard some numbers behind the scenes. We won't get into specifics, but there's just no way. There's no way that folks could be able to pay X amount and have it be legal given what these guidelines mean. So we'll see. I think Texas has played it safe relative. Obviously, Texas fans are probably saying they're certainly not doing enough given the recruiting stretch. But point being, I do think that they're taking care of, one, the roster for next year, two, enough at valuable positions this year, and three, making sure that they're not lying, which has become pretty prevalent elsewhere.
Somebody brought it up in the chat, and this is, again, CJ talking about it, just like it just triggered this in my brain. Like, I don't understand why we have to baby step our way to get to judgments or decisions or outcomes that it seems like common sense dictated we should have been there all along. Like, you remember when this is about 10 years ago when full cost of attendance was started to become a thing, like when the NCAA actually read, maybe we should allow scholarships to be full cost of attendance. And they were talking about, we'll do a blanket deal. Okay, full cost of attendance in Austin, Texas and Lubbock, Texas are not the same freaking thing. When you're talking about housing and transportation and everything else, it's on a different planet. So why it all leads me back to, number one, why is an accounting firm determining what market value is for a recruit's name, image, and likeness? Shouldn't the market dictate what market value is? It would make more sense to me if you had a committee, and I'm not saying you've got to get, David Mulligetta or the agents that have high profile NFL clients that are right in the thick of it, but I want some certified agents. I want former, pro sports general managers. I want people that have been in the room that have negotiated contracts. I want people like that looking over these deals to determine what is fair market value, what is fair for the prospect, what is fair for the school. Does this deal work out for everybody? Like, I don't need an accounting firm telling me, Arch Manning's deal with Panini, it's not requisite market value. Like, it's the market value too. Okay, based on what? According to who? And what are you, this goes back to the gray area. What are you using to determine that? So we're going to get to the logical place at some point. I just don't know why we've got to tiptoe around and, baby step our way there and, go from, why you're trying to get from the front door to the mailbox and you got to go in the backyard and around the barn and take a 2-mile detour to get there. Like, it'll never make sense to me.
What's the song to grandmother's house we go, over the river and through the woods?
No, because I think it was Rich Rod actually recently who said this. And honestly, it stood out to me because we're talking about just common sense here at this point. Like, guys, are common sense being applied to some of these decisions? And Rich Rod said, how do you make $500,000 and aren't an employee? If you're if you're basically representing a school and that kind of stuff. And I also think that's we're gonna get to collective bargaining here at one point. It's gonna come. And to Jeff's point, there's gonna be a lot of lawsuits determining what's fair market value? Who the hell has the authority to determine what my value is in a capitalistic society, right? We got capitalism, right? So that's the free market. Let the free market speak. And they have tried to cover their arse here. I'll give you and trust me, I'm not a lawyer here, but I know legalese, and it all comes down to language, right? How you interpret it and who's interpreting it and precedent. So here's what their loophole is going to try to be for fair market value. So the NIL clearinghouse, for any NIL deals over $600, it's at the new College Sports Commission site, which also says Deloitte. I hope I said the name right. They said for NIL deals over $600 will not determine, quote, fair market value. Instead of fair market value, with the term you're using, which I think we all use in capitalism, they're going to use the term reasonable range of compensation based on multiple factors. That is the language.
It hurts so much. Like,
right? That is the language that's actually applied. Listen to me again. Reasonable range of compensation based on multiple factors. This is their way to get out. This is their little loophole, little back door.
Yeah.
That ain't actually fair market value. That's a reasonable range of compensation based on multiple factors. What the hell is that? I mean, that's definitely going to be litigated in a court. That's going to be up for a judge to decide. Yeah. So to Jeff's point, this is definitely going to be decided in a court somewhere in the future. We know that. And I think there are some schools saying this house settlement is never going to hold up anyway, because somebody's going to bring a lawsuit. Somebody's going to sue somebody over probably fair market value. Them trying to determine what it is. And we're not there yet, but they are denying a lot of deals. And I wonder at one point somebody's going to say, man, why y'all denying this deal? Because that's not my fair market value. What is my market value is what they're willing to pay me in the market. That's literally what it is. So that's another little back door that I discovered in some of my research too. That's the new language, Jeff, to potentially avoid that litigation that you were talking about.
And here's my other question. Who's legislating / enforcing this? Because if it's the NCAA, I would do the same thing essentially Michigan and Tennessee have done, which is I would get my notice of allegations and laugh at the NCAA and say, bring it the F on if you think you've got something here. Elsewise, I'm going to keep going on about my day.
They do have the ability. Yeah, you're right. I'd agree with you on that. They do have subpoena power now, though. That is a difference.
Okay.
That the old NCAA, they got subpoena power. So that is what is kind of on their side. If you decide to just go double bird Tom Herman to the NCAA and the clearinghouse.
You never go double bird, Rod. Never go double bird.
But I do think teams are deciding. There are some teams deciding. Some people believe this is the USC strategy that it won't hold up. So we're gonna do what the hell we want to do anyway because it won't hold up. And inevitably, this is gonna get settled in a courtroom somewhere, and somebody's gonna get sued, and maybe that's it. Like I don't know. That's it. That's just conspiracy theory, and we don't know what the hell USC doing. Like we know what Tech's doing. Tech's got a sugar daddy. And can we talk about this real quick? Cody Campbell is at Big 12 Media Days.
Like, what are we doing?
He's put him on the podium, like talking to the media. We've never seen nothing like that. Once we've seen a booster, and I know he's got, actual different titles, and he's got some official title with Texas Tech. So I'm not saying that he doesn't belong there, but we just haven't seen like basically a booster and a donor show up at a media days for a power program and basically say, "Hey, I'm here to promote our brand, baby," and we here.
Like I just
disruptor, baby. He's a disruptor, man. He's a disruptor.
I kind of like it.
I respect it. I honestly, y'all didn't like it. I like it
because who's gonna tell it? There's nobody to tell him no. And I'm not upset with Tech and Cody Campbell. I'm upset that we're at this point where the people that can put guardrails in place were too chicken bleep to do so for too long. That's why we're here. It's not the fault of the players. It's not the collectives. It's not the schools. It's not the coaches. I blame the NCAA for sitting on their hands for so long and not doing anything. That's why we have no guardrails. That's why we're in the position we're in. If they had just done something, anything, rather than say, you know what, we're washing our hands of this, we probably wouldn't be here right now. So that's who I blame. I blame the NCAA and the people that a long time ago could have put a common sense system in place that made sense. And now we're going to end up settling this in court. There are going to be guys, Rob, there are going to be guys that get NIL deals, where they don't get approved through the clearinghouse. They get denied by the clearinghouse. There will not be legal resolutions to those. Probably by the time some of those guys are out of the NFL. Like their NFL careers will be over by the time they're done. So what are we doing? I just don't get it. It just doesn't make sense.
No. You're right about the NCAA and their malpractice. I don't disagree with that at all. And yes, I know. Like I said, I know he's got an official title there. Yes, he's on the Board of Regents. I'm not saying he ain't. When's the last time we seen somebody else Board of Regents guy show up at the media days?
I would have loved if Nevin Shapiro walked through with the U logo on his chest and just started having to answer questions. That's what we're 25 years too late on that. But you know what? My only thought on this is we're going in a circle, right? And eventually we're just going to end right back to where we were, where a lot of these kids just get McDonald's bags full of cash, get $100 handshakes. Their family gets a new business somewhere near their college campus that they end up with. They start blowing up in the business as well. That's what it's going to turn into. I mean, if it's going to become this regulated, you think any school in the history of college football has found rules and said, yeah, we're sticking by them 100%. Sorry, if it's not in the rules, we can't do it. No shot. It's been happening since well before the 80s, right? That's 50 years ago. Yeah. It's going to come back to doing exactly that, but it'll be front loaded with the face of, it was passed over there by they'll get the big shiny deals to the NCAA and, the third party arbitration, et cetera. But that it's coming back to that.
I envision a day around I envision a time where in an alternate universe this would have been done decades ago, and the Cody Campbell role at one point it would have been, can you imagine Joe Jamel and Red McCombs going to Big 12 media days or SEC media days and just making it rain? Red
McCombs would have been awesome at media days. He'd have been great. He dropped very controversial statements, but he still would have been really entertaining.
Cody Campbell's young and brash, but if you got the late Red McCombs and the late Joe Jamel, just old rich dudes that at some point they had no F's in their bag left to give. It would have been epic, man.
It would have been epic. Yeah, that's right. So I'm not saying he doesn't belong there. I don't want the people thinking I'm saying that. It's a new era. It's a new world order. We're just not accustomed to this. And yes, I saw somebody in the chat say, Steven say, all you need is $1 billion to change your whole sports program now that you can pay players. Yes.
You said that for years, Rod.
They're sugar daddies. You need a good sugar daddy. You get a good sugar daddy, one good sugar mama, and you are golden. Because even though Texas they got a lot of affluence, right? Right? Can I be y'all sugar daddy? Exactly. There's a lot of sugar daddy. We appreciate it. We don't consider y'all sugar daddy. We consider y'all family. Thank you. But the affluence of Texas, Texas got a lot of sugar daddies and sugar mamas. But if you got a billionaire with FU money, right? And you can't have any of y'all seen Brewster's Millions? I'm old. See, y'all don't even remember. Damn it. I'm old. It's an old reference. In the live chat, y'all remember Brewster's Millions? He basically had to spend he had to spend I think 40 million to make 400 million. It was some random thing. Yeah, see, that's gonna bring it up right here. Exactly, Brewster's Millions. Boom, there you go. See, John Candy was in it too.
John Candy, Richard Pryor. How have I not seen that?
You should watch. It's great. I believe the plot is he has to spend 40 million to get 400 million. Maybe I'm way off about it or something like that. There it is. You got it? Yeah. So it says 30 million. He has spent 30 million in 30 days. All right. And then I believe after that, he gets 300 million or something like that. If he can spend 30 million. And he has a tough time trying to spend the money. Trying to spend it. And my point is that basically you need a Brewster's Millions type billionaire who can just make it rain. And they got FU money and they know I can't spend it all. And my passion is this program. That's my passion. Mm-hmm. Problem with Texas billionaires is not a problem, but they got a lot of other passions. So as long as they give a little money to Texas, they give a little money to that. But you know what I mean? Everybody's like, Michael Dell, where's Michael Dell? Where's Texas sugar daddy? Texas got a lot of money and a lot of sugar daddy. Texas will be fine. Texas ain't got nothing to worry about. Texas can print. They got print and press. They can print money. All right. It's actually, I've seen it. It's under the tower. They got their own, they can print money down there. Remember what Reddy McComb said about Texas? Didn't he say Texas got more money than everybody except the Catholic Church? He said that. All right. You know how much money the Catholic Church got, y'all? Y'all have any idea? In their own state, they got a ton of money. All right. He said Texas got that much money. He know. Okay. He know. Texas got a lot of money. But when you got a sugar daddy or a sugar mom that says my passion and my number one priority is this program and this athletic department, that's a little different. And you can tell Cody Campbell's proven it. He's proven that no, all you need is one. Oregon has proved it. Phil Knight. All you need is one. Hell, if Red McComb's still alive, Mike Gundy will be balling out right now. I'm telling you, Mike Gundy would be just rolling in athletes right now. He'd be killing it. He'd have like a top 15, top 20 recruiting class. All right. But he don't run Red McComb's there. Yeah. He needs a sugar daddy. All right. And Texas got lots of them. Like I said, Texas, they're very sophisticated millionaires and billionaires. They got a lot going on. Yeah, the Catholic Church. Exactly. That's what Red McComb said. He said that. I didn't say that.
Said all the money that's not in the Vatican is up at UT.
Basically what he said.
I was there when he said it. What a time to be alive in the late Mac Brown era and the early Charlie Strong years.
But that's why Texas fans are also upset. Because they also know you got the money. If you wanted to buy every recruit, you probably could, making them offers they could not refuse. But the Kim Kardashian, Nicki Minaj, Serena Williams size, Cardi B size, Megan Thee Stallion size, but now hit the questions after this. Sark has got to build it his way because he has figured out the secret sauce to the culture. And I've said it before, like raising a kid. And I got a little girl right now. Raising a kid in this day and age scares the hell out of me. I think it's tougher than it was when my mom and dad were raising me because of social media and just it's just a lot for young people to have to deal with. There's just a lot more pitfalls. I feel Jeff knows it. There's a lot more things that can go wrong than it used to be. And I feel like that about building a culture in modern day college football. I feel like the transfer portal, NIL out there right now, modern recruiting and revenue sharing. I feel like there's so many ways for you now that the recruiting can go wrong. You can acquire the wrong kind of guys for your program. And I think Sark is well aware of that. And he has gone out of his way, and we have seen the result of it, that he has to pick the right kind of guys for his program that are compatible with his program. And I believe he has not said it out loud, but I'm just psychoanalyzing him. He is saying, I'm not going to lead with NIL. I can't lead with the money. And money will be a part of it. The money comes, but it's like courtship. You can't lead with the money. And, I had money for a while. I was never wealthy. I was rich for like 6 months. But I'm telling you, when you get the money, when you're dating, you can't lead with the money. All right. Now, if everybody knows you're rich, which everybody knows Texas is rich, it's really hard to find somebody out there that don't want you for the money. Mm-hmm. So you got to make the courtship about something else other than the money. So when I would take a woman out for a date and I would take her to a picnic in Zilker with Chick-fil-A and a bottle of wine, and then she was displeased with it, I knew she ain't the one. Because the third date, we're going to go to Ruth Chris. We're going to go somewhere fancy and really nice. But the first 2 dates, we're going to ball on the budget. See what you like. See if you see what your attitude is. See what your character's like. And then we're going to go ball out. And I think Sark's approaching recruiting the same way. First couple of dates going to be cheap. Let's talk about life. Let's talk about who you are, where you came from, what you like. And then I'll let you know, like, hey, I got the money. That's no question. But if you want to ask, that's the first thing you want to lead with, then maybe me and you aren't compatible. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
We'll see how hard you're laughing at my jokes when we're sharing a Jimmy John sandwich. And then we can move on to a nice little steakhouse, right?
CJ, you're living this right now, ain't you? Ain't you living this right now?
That's right.
Damn, CJ knows, man. You can't. She knows you got a good gig. And CJ's on YouTube all the time, and hey, man, look at the social media following. CJ's great. And it's like, nah, you gotta let them know when you first go. Like, nah, I'm a humble man. All right, but when I know I can trust you, let's go ball out. I'm taking
John Adams. All you got to say is you're related to 2 different presidents. That's the name down.
Hey, you could be like me, like you. I didn't have to play a role about being broke and humble. I didn't have 2 nickels to rub together when I'm out.
I said, hey Jeff, I said 6 months. Now, right after I was drafted, I got some money then, and after that, slowly but surely that bank account.
To your point though, Rod, and I'll say this, just kind of to wrap up the tech conversation too. I've always felt like, and this is especially like having, pretty much I can remember vividly the entire Mike Leach run at Tech. For a program like Tech to succeed, they need an identity. They need something to hang their hat on. Like they're never going to be Texas or Oklahoma or LSU, where you could just get talent and out talent everybody. Like you have to have an identity. And now Cody Campbell, whether you like it or not, has given Texas Tech an identity. Like every time Tech gets a commit, I think about the rich oil guy from The Simpsons shooting his 6 shooters. Like, yeah, Tech just got another one. Way to go. But like that's their identity now. To that same point, when Texas has been successful, it's been about the culture, right? Mm-hmm. Like whether it was Coach Royal or Coach Akers, obviously when Mac had it good, the culture was good. And if I'm with you 100%, Rod. If there is something that Sark feels could potentially damage the culture, you don't do it, even if it is a player that is really freaking talented. Yep. You know what? You might have to take a player that might not have quite the ceiling, but if you feel like that guy is going to help your culture and promote it and defend it, whereas the other guy might harm it, those are the decisions you got to make. And I'm cool with Sark making those calls because it's taken too much work, too much blood, sweat, and tears to get the culture where it's at. We've seen it before, guys. As quickly as you build a culture, it can be taken down just as fast. So protect the culture, defend the culture at all costs.
It takes no time. It took like a year and a half. Texas went from winning from competing in the national title in 2009. Now making a bowl game in 2010.
It was really an off-season
program going off the rails. Yeah, exactly. Like it doesn't take long at all, guys. It doesn't take long at all. So I'll defend Sark in that regard. Whatever he's doing is working. I'll trust him. All right. Let's thank our another sponsor before we move on. Let's thank our friends over at Von Lane before we move on. Answer some more questions in tonight's live stream. Everybody has had the experience of traveling to the major Texas cities, in between the major Texas cities: Austin, Houston, Dallas, Fort Worth, San Antonio. It's a bit of a toss-up, right? Do you deal with the airport chaos and hope your flight isn't delayed, or do you brace yourself for hours behind the wheel battling traffic and burning an entire day of productivity? Well, now there's a third option, and it's better in each and every way. Our friends over at Von Lane. I've taken it several times to Houston. I've taken it to Fort Worth and to Dallas as well for business and to visit family, and I love it. My wife loves it too. You arrive at a luxury hotel terminal, no TSA lines, no long-term parking lots, just a seamless boarding experience that takes minutes, not hours. You settle into a plush leather seat, a hot towel, pillow, and blanket are at arm's reach. Your attendant offers complimentary snacks, beverages, and on select trips, a full meal. And if you need to relax, you can lean back and enjoy the ride. But if you want to stay productive, there's high-speed Wi-Fi and power at every seat. So while you're unplugging or powering through, the Von Lane team will be monitoring traffic in real time using smarter routes and efficient detours to keep your trip smooth and on schedule. And now is the perfect time to plan your fall travel. Booking is open through September, so whether you're headed to a college football game like a lot of you will be, or a weekend getaway, or a business trip that needs to be done right, Von Lane makes the journey part of the reward. Von Lane serves Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, San Antonio, and in the Southeast Atlanta, Nashville, and Memphis. Visit vonlane.com. That's vonlane.com, VONLANE.com. Use the code OTF25 to save $20 off your first ride with Von Lane. That's Von Lane, elevated regional bus transportation. All right, let's get back to the questions. How about this one from Freelance Society? Says, what 6A high school teams are favorite to win state this upcoming season? Any committed players on those teams? Thank you, Freelance Society. Also does great actual journalism, so you should go check out Freelance Society and his platform as well. All right, go ahead, guys.
Yeah, I don't think you have to look too far. Westlake will be in the conversation. I think Lake Travis is up this year as well. And then up in DFW, look, John Turntine just won the state championship. North Crowley is probably the team to beat again in 2025. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do there. Trying to think who else might be in contention for a state championship inside of, well, in this Texas class. Melissa might be pretty good with Max Wright. Shadow Creek obviously always has some talent, but it's going to be really interesting. What kind of run could a Jermaine Bishop Jr. do at Willis? I know that's not 6A, but right now I'd point to John Turntine and say, yeah, you'll probably be playing well into December.
Yeah, Sarks likes those guys. You brought this up, CJ. One of the live streams we were on, I can't remember. They kind of run together on me, but that, Sark loves the guys who compete for championships, kind of those elite programs year after year. You talked about it. Some teams year after year, you can almost count on them at least competing, making a run in the playoffs. And he likes players from those programs, the elite players from those types of programs. I say Westlake being obviously a notable one right there in their backyard.
Yeah, no doubt. Talk about culture, talk about, knowing what it's like to wake up every day and achieve a goal. Those guys all come from winning programs. The Westlakes, the Duncanvilles, DeSoto obviously had a good couple of years up there as well. Now North Crowley, one of the big schools, and they have one of the more talented secondaries in the entire country. You'll hear a lot of names in 27 from that group. You'll hear a 28, 27 wide receiver as well from that group that Texas will get after. So yeah, just keep plugging away at those talented programs, I'll say, and you're in for a good shape.
There are certain high school coaches over the years. Todd Dodge was one for sure. Jack Welch, when he had things rolling at Copper's Cove, not so much that compete for state championships every year, but like guys that came out of that program, go look at their track record of guys that had success in college and then went on to the NFL because they knew how to work when they got to college. You didn't have to teach them. You didn't have to teach them how to maneuver around the weight room or how to conduct themselves at practice or, what the right mentality was to show up for an off-season workout. Those guys got to their college programs already ready for that stuff. So I think that's as big a part as any of it. Yes, it's great to compete for a state championship, but I look more so like what are the guts of the program? Like, does the guy know how to work? Does he understand what it's like to, how to, like I said, how to conduct yourself in the weight room, how to know your way around the weight room, what it's like to work in an off-season program, how much do you study film? So I look at both of those aspects too.
All right. Thank you, Freelance Society. Appreciate that. Splendid Daddy says, Rod, were strippers involved in your recruitment? I should plead the fifth here.
You should, Rod. You should.
I should just plead the fifth on this one.
You recruited.
I think you can read between the lines. I'll plead the fifth on that one. I believe. Listen, we would. You know what? I'm not doing that. I'll just plead the fifth, and I'll just say, plead the fifth. I'll just plead the fifth. I came to Texas. I enjoyed myself. I plead the fifth. I'm sorry. I hate to plead the fifth for a super chat too. I got to plead the fifth. I can't. What was the old lineman that was very truthful with the police? Is it Gooseby? Who was it?
No, Nick Brooks.
Brooks. That dude. Yeah, I don't want to be that. So I'm just gonna plead the fifth on that. Thank you. All right, we're done. All right, let's hit another one. Juan here says, Rod, does Texas have a Cody Campbell only? Have a Cody Campbell. Like I said, Texas had a lot. That may not be a more affluent fan base in all of college football than Texas. Texas has tons of money. As Jeff just read McComb's tweet to you. The question, do they have a Cody Campbell? Do they have somebody like that who's basically willing to throw all their FU money into Texas? Maybe. I mean, but I have not heard of somebody like that. They just have in terms of the pool of boosters and donors. I don't know if there are any programs out there that have the pool of affluent donors that Texas has in boosters. Now, do they have just somebody that's like, I want to make it rain, I don't care? I don't know if they have that. And honestly, I don't know if Texas encourages that. Because when Texas wants the money, like when they need it, that's when they go to those guys.
Yeah.
Like, so they don't necessarily want. I mean, now somebody wants to do it, they're not going to just say discourage it. But I do believe ultimately they have kind of fostered this environment where, hey, we will come to you when we need something from you because, we don't want to take advantage. I know a few boosters and donors who are good friends of mine, and even family now. And they have talked about the relationship they have with CDC and with, Texas, and Texas is very gracious, I guess is the best way to say it, about that relationship. And I think that's since when Steve Patterson was here, I was not hearing those things. Those people, they were pissed off. They were upset, they were mad, angry. Every time I'd go over there, they'd be complaining about it. It's a very different relationship they have with CDC. And they literally, it's him. They talk about the relationship with him. Like with Steve Patterson, they would talk about not having a real relationship with him and how upset they were with the university and how they were treated as boosters and donors. That you're not getting that now. I mean, now the ones that I know, I don't know all of them. Sure, I wish I did. I probably wouldn't be working on this channel if I knew all of them. I know a few, and they are very happy with how they are treated and how Texas, basically presents their message to them about what they need and what they want their role to be. So, like I said, I don't know of a Cody Campbell with Texas. Texas got billionaires, but I don't know of anybody who's being that upfront with it.
No one
behind the scenes people that want to do things. They don't want to be. He wants to be the face of it. Ain't nothing wrong with that, by the way. Right. Matter of fact, that's what they need.
Exactly.
Texas Tech needs right now is somebody who wants to be the face of it. Texas don't need that. The brand of Texas is enough. And even CDC tries to take kind of a backseat. Texas don't need nobody to be the face of the brand. It's not really it. All right, thank you for that super chat. All right, let's thank one more sponsor, another sponsor actually, before we dive in. Thank the friends over at South Point Dodge, southpointdodge.com. We really appreciate our friends at South Point Dodge for their ongoing support of On Texas football and sponsoring our Wednesday night live stream. If you're looking for a new vehicle, something new, maybe something used, maybe it's a car, truck, maybe it's a trade-in for you, whatever you need, our friends at South Point Dodge are Austin's automotive everything. Right now, they have over 600 vehicles in stock, including the all-new 2025 Ram 1500. Get the real deal today and drive away in the all-new Ram 1500, proven to last. Plus, you get employee incentive pricing right now with our friends over at South Point Dodge. That's right. You pay what the employees pay over at South Point Dodge. That's the real deal. So score big today at southpointdodge.com. You can go see them in person off of I-35 in South Austin, or you can go to southpointdodge.com. Get to the point with our friends over at South Point Dodge. Appreciate them and their support of On Texas football. All right. We'll answer a couple of questions before we end tonight's live stream. We'll kind of start here at the top and try to get to as many of them as we can. Kind of rapid fire here. How about this one from Specker 54? It says, if OU doesn't get it turned around this season, will they enter the dark ages like we did? Ooh.
They're at a very pivotal point in their program right now, just their athletic department, period, with the news coming out that Joe Castiglione is getting ready to step down. Like, we knew that's been coming, like he wasn't going to be the athletic director forever. But this would be a really good time. And I don't have the time to go into the numbers. Maybe we can do this for Friday live stream or something. But no Texas coach who's been successful, competed for a national championship at Texas, has done so without a run of success against Oklahoma. It would be really nice if Sark could get that ball rolling this year, where now you're talking about Texas wins. And okay, so that's for Sark, that's what, 3 and 4 years at that point. And now you're starting to talk about, okay, can Tech, because you can go look at the numbers with Oklahoma. Texas needs to have one of those kinds of runs now.
Yeah, I think they might be pretty close to a dark age. I'll leave it there. I'll leave it there. They got to figure out a lot.
There's some similarities between our Texas dark age and them potentially going on one. The offensive identity crisis. They had their worst offensive year arguably in the history of the program, at least in modern history, last season. So there's an offensive identity crisis trying to figure out. They brought in Ben Arbuckle to figure that out. And change in leadership, right? Just talked about Steve Patterson, right? You change leadership at the top. Sometimes, man, that can lead to a lot of, negative effects throughout the program.
And like, you listen to Jim Nagy when he talks, like, I hope I'm not taking it out of context, but he said in an interview last week, he's like talking about their new evaluation. I was like, yeah, the coaches have really bought in. I'm like, if I'm Brent Venables, I'm the head coach. Why do I need to buy in? Like, who's running the program? Which makes me believe if OU goes 6-6 this year, Jim Nagy will be back in 2026. I don't think Brent Venables will.
Yeah,
he's recruiting right now for whatever coach comes into the office that day.
Yeah, I hope BV didn't buy in Norman, or he already had a house there.
We could be looking like an NFL situation there where he's the true GM and he's the one that hires and fires there with that program. How about this one from Juan Super Chat? Thank you, Juan, for the Super Chat. We appreciate it. He says, I can see Tech throwing FU money if McGuire doesn't work to Riley, a Tech alum, to Lincoln Riley, who's also, a lot of people believe, on the hot seat there at USC. That's a great conspiracy theory, Juan. I will go on the grassy knoll with you on that one. That's pretty good. That's quality. Quality.
I think based on some conversations I had at the Cotton Bowl from people who would know, because I don't know how we got on the topic of Lincoln Riley. I don't think he's very happy at USC right now for a number of reasons. That's not as crazy of a scenario as you might think it would be. That in 2026, Lincoln Riley is the head coach at Texas Tech.
Oh,
I don't
think
a
$50 million buyout.
I don't think it's that. I don't think it's as insane as it would seem on the surface.
That's wild. And then I saw at Big 12 Media Days that I forgot who it was, but basically one of the members of that were representing Texas Tech. Oh yeah, sorry, I got it right here. Joey McGuire. When you talk about out of conference scheduling, he said, "quote I'd love to play LSU home and home series." Texas Tech also needs a big time rival if they really want to get sexy. You can't get sexy unless you get a rival in college football. Like, you need a big time. Who's that big time rival? Baylor?
Well,
who's Texas big time rival?
That's another thing that, remember when Brett Yormark went on the whole offseason, smack talk tour about Texas? They had my understanding is there was a preliminary agreement for Tech and Texas to have some home and homes, and that the ink hadn't even been put on paper yet. And for all intents and purposes, I think CDC told Kirby Hocutt exactly what he could do with that contract, because for Texas, there's no incentive to play Tech. Why would you?
More to lose than to gain. Now
if I never have to go to Lubbock again, that would not bother me at all. So
hey,
I'm sure I'm not alone in that in my line of thinking then.
Nope. I lost in Lubbock at night. Now you got more to lose than to gain. That ain't worth it. Nope. We're good. We're good on that. We're moving on to dominate the SEC. We ain't worried about Tech. I agree with that. Daniel wants to know, Rod, do you talk to Coach Akina often? I text with Coach Akina when I'm over there and he's there and I get a chance to see him and hang out. But I know Coach Akina is really busy, of course, recruiting and coaching. So often text with him. If I got a question or something like that, I just want to say what's up. I do text with Coach, and he's pretty good about getting back with me. Coach is a good guy. I love Coach Akina. Jack says Akina probably has flashbacks and starts yelling at Rod. He probably does. I would not doubt that at all. I got yelled at a lot by Coach Akina, but it made me a better player.
I'll say this. I always say this anytime Coach Akina comes up. I was at a high school. It was Jalen Green's high school. Coach Akina and I were watching him work out in off season. And we started talking about Rod, and Coach Akina told me, and hand to the man in the sky, Coach Akina said, you know what, if I had a third down and I had to pick one of my corners, one of my DBs for man coverage, he's like, I'd probably pick Rod B.
Hey, that dude coached a lot of Thorpe Water with us at some greats, so I appreciate the love. Anytime I have heard I'm still on the instruction video. That I still am on there. He breaks down like how I want you to play certain routes and stuff, that Rod B still has an appearance on the video, so I appreciate that. All right, one last question. I'm sorry, guys, couldn't get to all of them. You guys had such great questions tonight. How about this one? I like this one from Tyler. Says, say Sark gets a natty and leaves in 3 years, who would y'all want to see as the next coach? That is good, because I've been on the record for saying, well, Sark's going to win a couple at Texas, and he's going to decide to jet to the NFL because he loves the NFL. Who's the next coach at Texas?
If Marcus Freeman ever opted to leave South Bend, Indiana, to come to Texas, he would go on a Saban-like run.
I like that.
He would be able to recruit maybe as well as anybody ever has.
That's good. That's good.
That may be.
That's good.
That would maybe be the one higher where I'd look at it and say, it kind of be. You'd have the potential to do what happened in Miami when Howard Schnellenberger left right after the '83 national championship. Like, man, how are we ever going to top this? And then you get Jimmy Johnson, who just took it to a completely different stratosphere at Miami. So I'm with CJ. That my first call would be to Marcus Freeman.
Yeah, I see some Kenny Dillingham love there in the chat as well. But I like that Marcus Freeman one. That's good.
Kenny Dillingham. Though I think you're at the point though. I would want someone who can, with a better understanding of what they're getting into.
Like the
Marcus Freeman being the coach at Notre Dame, that's going to definitely prepare you to be the head coach at Texas.
So that's a good point. Yeah, Sark being at USC. That kind of job, like you understand the scope of it. Good stuff there. All right, let's thank our friends over at Advanced Pain Care before we end tonight's program. And we have two legendary lifetime Longhorns to give you a very special message from our friends at Advanced Pain Care.
Pros know the pain stops here.
Physical therapy helps me as an athlete then and now. And do I still need therapy? Yes. Advanced Pain Care helps with that.
Injuries will stack up. They'll add up. You can't let those injuries get you down, and Advanced Pain Care has been very helpful for me.
We can help with whatever's got you down, from nerve damage to our spinal cord stimulator. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Same-day appointments available.
Advanced Pain Care. The pain stops here.
Thank you very much to legendary lifetime Longhorns, Colt McCoy and Vince Young, for their special message from Advanced Pain Care. And thank you very much to Matthew behind the scenes. He's a real MVP. Sorry we couldn't get to all the questions. You guys had some really good questions today, so I apologize. We did way too much talking and didn't answer enough of your questions, so I apologize. If you have some questions that you want answered, please direct them to the gentleman at Coffee and Football tomorrow morning, bright and early. That'll be at 8:15 with Jerry and Bobby. And then also we'll have tomorrow, I should say, we'll have the winning drive. That'll be at 3:15 with CJ Vogel, myself, and Coach Bob Shipley. So if you have questions for me or CJ or Coach Shipley, you can give them to us at 3:15 tomorrow for the winning drive. Thank you to Matthew behind the scenes, a real MVP. Jeff, thank you as well. Thank you, CJ, for all of your knowledge and expertise. Thanks, guys, for the super chats. You guys are awesome. We appreciate the participation in the show today. Thanks for all your questions. And for Jeff and for CJ and for Matthew, I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Until next time, hook 'em horns.